All right, guys. So, welcome back. Today, we're going to be talking about Alex Pereira and his next fight as the champion at 205. So, maybe you guys have seen it recently. He put up a thing on Twitter. It was a video of him walking with his coach in the airport or whatever it was. And he looked super happy. He was saying that he's got a fight coming up next. He spoke to the UFC brass. They told him something. They agreed to a fight. And he was super happy about it, but couldn't announce it yet. And I believe, I don't know if it was in that video or later on Twitter, because I know he definitely did it on Twitter where he said that it's not Ankalaev and he made like a crying face. But it's just crazy because between that tweet of him saying it's not Ankalaev and then seeing how happy he was, because I don't think he's trying to run from Ankalaev. I don't think that he's trying to duck him. I think he's 100% down for that fight. I don't believe that Pereira is looking to duck anybody. I think he's down to fight Ankalaev. I think it's the UFC who's like, let's hold this off for as long as possible. Because Pereira at this point, he's getting older. He's like, what, 36, 37. He's probably only got about a year or two left at his peak, And at this point, he's probably not at his peak, but he's probably got about a year or two left. And if they can just push it long enough where they can milk Alex Pereira, because he's a star, he's an absolute star. People love him. He's got the aura. He's exciting. He's an elite striker, and people like that kind of thing. And he's knocking people out, and people love that. So I can understand why Dana and the UFC brass are trying to keep Ankalaev away. It's sad and funny at the same time. Like, it's sad because, like, come on. Ankalaev is like undefeated in the UFC other than the Paul Craig loss. And he's beaten pretty much everybody, just beat Rakic. And it's like, what more could the poor guy do? He just can't get a shot. He got the shot against Jan, dropped the ball there. That was a weird performance. Pretty surprising that he didn't win that one. And since then, they've just been trying to push him off, push him off, push him off as long as possible. And I thought for sure, after Alex beat Halil and after Magomed beat Rakic, I thought 100% that they're going to make it. They're finally going to make that fight. And then Alex has that meeting, says all that, and then says it's not Ankalaev. And I tend to believe him. I don't know why he would lie like that. It wouldn't make any sense. So now it's like, okay, so who is it? Because there's no one else in the light heavyweight division for him to fight. Jiri and Hill, he beat both of them, and they're fighting now. Jan is fighting Olberg. I would have thought that maybe Olberg will be next, but they made the Olberg Jan fight. So unless they pull Olberg from that fight, which they have done that. So I wouldn't be shocked if they pulled Olberg out and made that fight because it's a striker's delight. Two really good strikers, a striker in Olberg who has progressed really well in the UFC, really fast, really good striking, and Alex, who we all know is a legend on the feet, an absolute beast of a striker. When he's in his flow state, he's just an animal. What he did to Halil, I believe it was the 4th round, was super, super clean, really impressive. That would be a fun fight, and that's the one I've been talking about for a while now. But for now, I have to operate under the assumption that Olberg isn't going to do it because he is booked to fight Jan Blachowicz. So that removes pretty much everybody possible. Krylov just mentioned that he's got a fight coming up, but I highly doubt that it's Alex because he's like way down in the rankings right now. I think he's like number 8 or something. I think he's probably going to fight Mirzakhanov. That's a fight that was already scheduled to happen prior, and he's been out for a while. So I don't think it's Krylov, and I don't really know who else it could be. There's really not many people left in that division. So I have 3 ideas of who it could be. Part of me thinks they're going to throw Chimaev in there, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. He hasn't won a title at middleweight. He moved up from welterweight originally to middleweight, and I don't really know why. Like, why would you do that? Maybe to make a super fight, but then at the same time, it's like, so you didn't want Ankalaev to fight Periera because you're trying to avoid him grappling him and ending up with somebody people consider boring. I don't really consider Ankalaev boring at all, but some people do, and I assume Dana does. So if you're not giving him Ankalaev because of the wrestling threat, do you really want to give him Hamzat? A guy who I think it doesn't matter how much his opponent weighs. I think he's going to throw them around. So, and like Hamzat's he's not small either. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if he could bulk up to 205, but it wouldn't be a proper bulk because you need like a year or two to do that at least. That's what John Jones did when he moved up to heavyweight. So Hamza would probably be fighting at like his walking weight. I assume he walks around 220, 205. So he'll maybe have to cut a tiny bit, but not much. And I mean, I'm down. I'm 100% down. I want to see it. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but it makes some business sense, right? It's a super fight. People are really hype about Chimaev. People are really hype about Periera. Unfortunately, not many people are very hype about Ankalaev. So I think that might be kind of the difference, right? Because I mentioned, why would they give him Hamza if they're worried about the grappling of Ankalaev? I think part of that answer might be that they're worried about Ankalaev not just winning, but winning and then being a boring champion. Whereas Hamza, I don't think they expect him to be boring. He's exciting, even though he is a grappler. He's still always exciting. All his fights are fun. All his fights, he has dominant moments. He goes to war if he needs to. So it could be a really fun fight, and it is a super fight. And if Chimaev ends up being the 205 champ, I don't think Dana would be too worried about him having boring fights. Whereas with Ankalaev, I think he could be a little bit worried about that. Now, if that fight's not it, I have two other things I can think of. One of them would be Tom Aspinall at heavyweight, and Periera goes for the third belt, right? It would be technically only an interim shot, but it would make some sense, try to really give Periera that standout achievement that no one has ever done in the UFC, be a champion in 3 different weight classes. He's already a double champ. He was champion at middleweight, then he was now he's champion at light heavyweight. So it would make some sense to give him a chance at heavyweight, put him up against Aspinall. But again, there you fall into the issue of, is Aspinall just going to smoke him? Because he could grapple and he's huge, and Periera will for once not be the bigger guy. And I would worry about the ground game there. Aspinall could probably just submit him in the first round, I think. So I don't know if they would want to make that fight, because Dana has outwardly said after John Jones beat Stipe, he said, there's no way I'm making John Jones Periera, because he's just going to destroy him. And I tend to agree. I think John probably can run through Periera, can probably submit him in the first round. And that would be a super fight too. It's just, I don't really see either of those happening, because I just made a video on this. Dana said Aspinall and John Jones are next. That fight is happening. I don't know if he said next, but he said that fight is happening. So I don't know if maybe he'll try to squeeze in Aspinall Periera somewhere in between. I don't really see that happening. I don't think that's the likeliest option. So that kind of just leaves one other guy to me, and he's not even in the UFC. I'm thinking about Vadim Nemkov. He was a Bellator fighter. He was a champion. He's now in the PFL. And I don't know what his standing is right now with the organization. I know that a lot of fighters want out. I know Patricio Pitbull has been very, very, very vocal that he wants out of the PFL. He wants nothing to do with them anymore. And he wants to go to the UFC or do something else, maybe GFL, that new league they're creating in 2025. And then Patchy Mix also has been very vocal. Corey Anderson has been very vocal. The PFL is just not honoring their contracts to these champions, and it's pretty messed up. So I could possibly, I don't know where Nemkov's contract stands. I don't know how he feels. I don't know if he's actively trying to get out. Maybe his contract's already over. I really don't know, but that could make some sense, because UFC has bringing in some new guys. Just brought in Asakura to fight for a title, despite not being in the UFC prior and not having any UFC wins. He did get dusted by Pantoja, but at the end of the day, they did give him the shot. So I can see them bringing in Nemkov possibly and making that fight. But then again, there's the same issue I've been talking about this whole time, where Nemkov's also a really good grappler. So he can also probably beat Periera. Now, it would be a pretty fun fight. It would be an interesting dynamic. Can he take him down? Will he strike with him? Can Periera knock him out before he gets the takedowns? Can Periera work his way back up, or survive the ground game and then knock him out? Because I guess the difference between somebody like Hamzat or Aspinall or John Jones and Nemkov, I think those first 3 can all finish Periera on the ground pretty easily. Whereas Nemkov, I don't think he's as dangerous of a submission threat, as dangerous on the ground. So I think that might be a little bit more of a competitive fight. But I also think that fight really wouldn't excite many people. A lot of people are just casual UFC fans. I would say the vast majority of people who watch UFC only watch UFC, don't even know what PFL is. If you talk to a random person on the street, to them, MMA and UFC is the same thing. They don't even know the difference. So I have a pretty hard time believing that that's what they're going to do with their star Alex Pereira. So where does that leave us? I don't have the faintest idea. I really don't. To me, it comes down. I think there's two options. I think you either take, I guess, three options I could go with, right? I think what would make the most sense is just let Oldberg have the shot. Sorry, Jan, fight somebody else, take Oldberg out and put him into the title shot. I think that's an option and one that makes sense because you're getting a striking affair, what people love and expect about Periera, where he gets to strike. He doesn't have to worry about takedowns. And if Oldberg shoots, I think that's something that Periera can handle. That makes sense. The other one that my gut's telling me that not the most likely, but my gut is telling me that what is going to happen is going to be Chimaev. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense really, but like I mentioned earlier, there is some sense to it. I just feel like that's what they're going to do because why is he so happy? He's incredibly happy with the news. He's running around that airport. He was smiling from ear to ear. So to me, that suggests either he got a super fight against Chimaev or he got an even bigger super fight against either John Jones or Aspinall. I think it's one of those two. I think they're probably going to announce Chimaev or they're going to announce him against either Aspinall or John Jones. I don't know which one of those they're going to do. It really depends on John, I think. But yeah, that's where I'm at. Really exciting news. I can't wait for them to actually announce the fight. Now that that video is like a week or two old, I'm hoping we hear something in the new year. We're a few days out. Maybe Dana White blesses us with a New Year's present and announces the fight. So we'll see. But I'm looking forward to hearing what it is, and I'm looking forward to seeing him fight any of those names. I think would be a great fight and really fun. Bringing in Nemkov would be a great addition to the UFC. Seeing Chimaev at 205 would be interesting. And seeing Periera at heavyweight against Aspinall or John Jones would also be pretty interesting. Maybe John moves down back to 205 and tries to get the title back. But after all the work he did to bulk up to heavyweight, I don't see that happening, not at this age. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I will catch you guys next time.